Morning. It's a beautiful spring morning. And maybe on a day like this, we can absolutely understand that God loves us. But from here on out, I'm going to use the term God loves me because God loves each and every one of us. We theoretically may know this. There may have been times where we really feel this, but we need to come to know it within our core. And so I have a few things that I want to, a few Bible verses that I want to throw out there for you before we go in totally into the meditation. John, for 1 John 4:16. And so we know and rely on the love that God has for us. For whoever lives in love lives in God, and God in them. That's a pretty powerful statement. We live in love, but when we live in love, God lives in us. And so that's something to remember. And this is from Ephesians 3:18 to 19. And may you have the power to understand, as God's people should, how wide, how long, how high, and how deep his love is. May you experience the love of Christ, though it is too great to understand fully. Then you will be made complete with all the fullness of life and power that comes from God. Um, I think it's really easy to forget that's probably one of the very basic principles of our belief in God, that God loves us. And if we truly understand this, our lives can be a lot easier. So let's go into a quiet time. Let's breathe deeply and let's close our eyes and just relax and breathe in and out. Every time you breathe in, know that you're breathing in spirit. You're breathing in the breath of God. Every time you breathe out, you let a little bit of your ego self go. Now say to yourself, God loves me. Every time you breathe in, I'm going to do this for a minute. Say to yourself, God loves me. Okay, now you've said it to yourself. Let's begin to feel it. Feel God's love just washing over you. Let's just sit there and feel it for a minute. God's love is permeating every single cell that you have. It's shining light upon you. God loves me. God loves me. Feel that love just washing over you. The sunlight of God's love. The safety of God's love. The completeness of God's love. The energy of God's love washing over you. God loves me. God loves me for who I am. God loves me for where I am. God loves everything about me. God's love surrounds me. God's love enfolds me. God's love protects me. God's love is always within me, around me. God's love is ever present. Feel God loves me. God loves me. God loves me. Now, think about some of the ways that you can actually intellectually know this. God loves the world. He loves nature. Look at the flowers. Look at the birds. Look at the trees. And think of yourself. And know you too are a creation of God. God loves me. Think of the times in your life that maybe things didn't go as you would have chosen. But in the end, it was for the highest good. God loves me. I may not always be able to make the right choice, but God loves me and leads me through whatever I need. God loves me. God loves me in times of joy. God loves me in times of sorrow. God loves me in times of happiness. God loves me in times of worry. God is always there, ever present. God and I are one. God loves me. Let's take a moment just to once again feel that love and think about moments in your life that you just absolutely knew that God loved you. Remember back to when you were a child, a young child, before the world got in your way, and the feeling and the knowing you had that everything was right. That's because God loved you then, and you could feel it. So let's return to that feeling of our childhood, that protective, not vulnerable feeling that we had. God loves us. God loves you, and God loves me. God loves us through everything. And knowing that God loves us, acknowledging that God loves us, feeling that God loves us, helps us in our everyday life. It helps us in times where we need help. Knowing that God is there for us, remembering God loves me, helps us get through anything. Knowing that God loves me allows me to have faith. It allows me to have trust. And having God's love, I'm able to give it away. So anytime, any day, when you feel off or sad or worried, stop, take a minute, breathe in. God loves me in the quiet. Get back to your spiritual core. God loves me. God loves me. God loves me. Let's come back to the present moment. And let's remember this from Corinthians 13. This is God's love. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance. That is God's love. God's love is here for us. We're surrounded by it. We're permeated with it. We just need to remember that. So I have 3 affirmations for you this morning. God loves me. God loves me. God loves me. And the second one, with God's love to guide me, all things are possible. With God's love to guide me, all things are possible. With God's love to guide me, all things are possible. And then the last one, God's love helps me to bring light, love, peace, and joy to others. God's love helps me to bring light, love, joy, and peace to others. God's love helps me to bring light and love and peace and joy to others. Just remember, and maybe just take time to do that exercise 1 minute or 2 or 3 times a day, just breathing in, God loves me, because God loves you and you are his child, and he or she is here for us, each and every one of us. God loves you, and so do I. Have a great day.